Good shit. Dude. We're so uncoordinated. Just give me the fucking Kuang, dude. And I'll put you all in my fucking backpack.
Today, we become legends.
Hey, my name's Itza, welcome back to the channel, and you guys seem to really enjoy the King Arthur guide that I put out probably a few weeks ago at this point, and like how in depth I went with it. So I decided I'd try my hand at some more of these, like just chilling out in jungle practice, like more in depth guides that are less edited and more so like giving you a more in-depth look at the god, and I decided to go with Kuang this time. He's a god I've been spamming so much in ranked right now. I've been streaming a lot of ranked on Twitch, so go follow me over there if you want to watch me play and stuff like that. But yeah, I've been having a lot of success with Kuang. We all know he's pretty strong right now. I think he's very good, especially for just like standard ranked hard carrying with like random teammates. He does really well in that kind of context. Not a lot of people play him, I don't think, so I don't even know how well this guy's going to do. I don't know how many of you are really interested in playing Kuang, but he's definitely a god that I can tell you a lot about and that I'm very good with. And so as I decided, he will be my next god guide. Do let me know in the comments down below who you want to see next, and I'll see if I can get that done. But yeah, Kuang, of course, he's a mage, but he's a magical assassin. He has all the play elements of a standard assassin, he just does magical damage. So don't think of him as a mage. He's melee, he has very assassin capabilities, invisibility, high burst damage, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, let's just jump right in. So first up, we have his passive, which is the Dragon King's Sword. So this sword on the left-hand side of my health bars here, you can see has like 3 charges. When you use an ability, when you have a charge, it gets a reduced 3-second cooldown. So you see my 3 only had like 3 seconds cooldown there. Normally it is a 6-second cooldown ability, so it basically just goes down to 4 when you use it when you have a stack of the Dragon King's Sword. You get one of these every 10 seconds, and you also heal 3% of your max health whenever you hit one of these as well. So if I was damaged, let's just go damage myself a little bit. And so yeah, as you can see, heal a little 68 there. It's a 3% max health heal. Not worth going tank for in my opinion. It is a max health heal, it's not a flat heal, it doesn't have any power scaling or anything like that, but you want to be going full damage on Kuang. He's definitely that kind of god. You can kind of play him in solo with like a bruiser build, and that is like not terrible, but I feel like especially from jungle, you just want to be going full damage on this guy. So yeah, you can get a little bit of a 3% max health heal and the 2-second reduced cooldown. You get one of those every 10 seconds, and when you use his ultimate, you also get a fully stacked Dragon King's Sword, so you can engage afterwards with that. But we'll get to his ultimate in a second. Alright, but getting into Kuang's actual abilities, first up we have the one, which is a simple teleport forward and you go invisible. This is kind of standard invisibility in that if you do any action, you will become uninvisible, so any basic attacks, any abilities, anything like that. And also if you take any damage, you will become completely uninvisible. So it's not like Loki, where you'll just get like a damage number and a slight like flicker of like you can see where Loki is. Kuang, you'll go completely uninvisible and won't go invisible again if you ever take damage. So you got to be a little careful with how you use this. You don't want to be like teleporting when you have any dots on you, because that will immediately reveal you. You don't want to be teleporting into like where you might immediately take some damage, because you're just going to completely waste that stealth. Worth noting, the ability does not go on cooldown until that decoy detonates. You can see that it's not gone on cooldown, and then it goes on cooldown there. It's not going to have a 2-second cooldown, obviously. I have a cooldown reduction active for jungle practice here, which gives you 80%. It's normally a 15-second cooldown, I believe. But yeah, that is worth noting. So if you're ever using this just purely for mobility or using it for camp clear, just immediately detonate the decoy, which you just reactivate the ability again. You just press it again, you immediately activate the decoy, and it goes on cooldown instantly rather than having to wait 5 seconds for it to go on cooldown. Like, if that decoy and the invisibility doesn't matter to you in the current situation, if you're just clearing camps or if you're just using it to, like, get to somewhere, you just immediately do this and just detonate it, and it'll go immediately on cooldown. Next up, we have Kuang's 2, which is probably like his most iconic ability, I would say, even more so than the ultimate, which is Dragon Call. You summon 6 dragons around you, and they activate on basic attacks, and they go in and do damage. This ability does insane damage. I'll get up the exact number for you. So this ability, when you use the dragons all individually, does 570 plus 180% of your power. So this ability hits ridiculously hard, and it's Kuang's main way to burst people down. So you just go in like this, you hit them with all the basics. You can also throw them, as I just did there. So you can throw them, and it does damage based on the remaining dragons. So you can see there, I'll do 2 or 3 with that. But if I have only like 1 dragon left, or 2, It's only doing 68. So it does damage based on your remaining dragons. So if you just throw it immediately, it's going to do significantly more damage. This is generally the lesser way that you use the ability. I wouldn't recommend just doing this and throwing it at people for poke. It's not really worth doing that way. But it does apply a slow. It's a slow that is based on how many dragons you have left. It's 1 second plus 0.25 seconds per dragon. So that would be 2.5 seconds slow if you just throw it with all of the dragons left over. And then let's say you just have like 1 dragon left. If you throw it like this, it's just going to be a 1.25 second slow. So it won't ever be a 1 second slow, obviously, because you have to have 1 dragon remaining to throw it. But yeah, that slow can be very useful. Sometimes I like to kind of, when I'm going in, I'll just like hit them a few times, and if they're about to get away, I'll just throw that slow at them. Because you can hit them from range. You don't necessarily, like, if they're about to escape your melee range or something like this, you just throw it, and then you get the slow, and you can kind of continue chasing them like that. And so, like, that is something I like to do, you know, when I have, like, 1 or 2 dragons remaining. If I don't think I'm going to need the entire damage of the ability, you can just throw the remaining dragons for the slow. Like that, and then they kind of hit at a similar time, and you can just continue chasing down with the slow. But I wouldn't really recommend just doing this and just throwing it for poke. It's not really what you want to be doing with the ability, because the damage is drastically reduced. You do 240 plus 78% by doing this, in comparison to 580 plus 180% by doing this. And so this is how you want to get your main damage out with Kuang. And we'll move on to his 3 now, which is simple cone damage, very low cooldown. You can see there, I literally had no cooldown because I had Dragonkin's sword, but it's normally got a 6-second cooldown. It's just 1.2 here because of jungle practice CDR, and so it's got a very low cooldown. It's good for just like generally poking. It's your main camp clear ability that you'll level first for jungle clear. But also, what noteworthy is that it will proc one of these dragons. It used to be that it worked entirely as a basic attack, but that was too overpowered because it was proccing like Polynomicon and stuff like that, and so they had to remove that. But it does still count as a basic attack in terms of it will throw one of these dragons at them. And so that's like Kuang's kind of main way of engaging, I suppose. You kind of go like this, you 3 them, and then you continue on with basic attacks or like throw the dragons or whatever. Like, if you just want to poke and you're not necessarily thinking you're going to be able to get the kill, you can just go in like this, do this, and throw them. And then you can like get out or whatever. And that still does decent damage, you know, that's still going to do like probably about 300 plus 90% from the dragons in terms of just like 1 dragon proccing and then throwing them. And then you get the 1's damage as well, which is like 270 plus like 60% or something like that. But yeah, ideally, if you're actually like going in hardcore, you're committing and you're going for the kill, you will want to do something like this and just like go in with the rest of the dragons. Maybe throw them if you want to get the slow to continue connecting basic attacks afterwards. Or you can just like go in for the full damage and just go like this and just full on dump them all in like that. But moving into Kuang's final ability, we have his ultimate, which is a targeter like this. You hit them, and it'll throw them up in the air. That's not all it does, though. It's an execute. So if they're low health, let's just get this Neath low. So yeah, the execute threshold is 30%. So if someone is low enough, you just do this, you lock onto them, and you completely eat them. You go up into this dragon form, where you can choose to land in a massive radius. This can be a really good way to re-engage. You know, after a team fight, I can just go down on this Odin, start doing all my stuff on him, and things like that. So the ultimate is really powerful. It's an execute, so it's very good at like picking off tanks, or just generally like finishing off low health targets after you've gone in and done all of your standard burst damage stuff. It will also heal you based on your maximum health, so it's a 10 up to 30% heal depending on the rank of the ultimate, so you can get really good re-engage potential. You know, if you've gone in, you've taken a lot of poke while you're trying to execute someone and you're down to like 20% health, you'll heal up back to like half health and you can maybe continue going in with like an engage afterwards. And yeah, as you can see here, I'm a little bit low. Boom, I'm heal up to like basically full health. So that heal is like really powerful once you get the ability ranked up, and it can allow you to re-engage into fights. Like, someone might not expect that you can just immediately come back in. Like, if you've got like 20% health left and you can just come back in at half health because of that massive heal. A lot of people don't really respect that part of Kuang. It is worth noting that this ability is very hard countered by CC immunity. Do not use this on a CC immune target, it will not work. I'm not sure I can really demonstrate that here. Actually, I probably could if I go get a Ymir bot or something. So yeah, you see this Ymir's ulting? The ult completely whiffs, so don't use it on a CC immune target, and ideally, if you think the enemy has beads, try not to go for them. Try and like either force their beads with another teammate, because Kuang can't force beads in any way. That's like one of his big weaknesses. If he could force beads in his main kit, he will be insane, because the ultimate obviously is hard countered by beads, so if you could just get this every single fight by forcing their beads early with like a CC, that would just be ridiculous. And so Magi's Blessing is really good into Kuang, and just generally like having beads, which, you know, every squishy in the game is going to have beads, and so you've got to be a little bit careful with that. You got to try and like track their beads cooldown if you can, get teammates to call out their beads and stuff like that, because if you use this ultimate on a target with beads, it's just going to completely do nothing. It'll do a little bit of damage when it initially locks on, and then once they immune it, you basically get nothing out of it. You're not going to get the execute, you're not going to get the throw up in the air or anything like that, so it's very weak to beads. Make sure you're trying to track beads cooldowns and not go on someone if you think they're just going to easily be able to beat your ultimate. Alright, so let's move on to some Kuang tips and tricks before we get into the build section. So this is just going to be like general stuff that you can do, like little tips that you can do to like kind of improve your game on Kuang after I've explained all of his abilities. So firstly, I guess I'll just quickly mention that the decoy does solid damage. 270 plus 28 there you can see, so it's probably about 80%, 70% power scaling or something like that. So you can just do this, and it's like actually pretty solid damage. If you need to like finish off a kill, you can just do that, immediately proc it, and get the damage out of that. That's actually pretty solid. Of course, it's a little bit risky because you immediately use the invincibility. Sorry, invisibility, not invincibility. That would be insane. But yeah, you can just get some nice burst damage doing it that way. In terms of engaging with this ability, I typically like to engage with Blink and not this. You can engage with this, and it can absolutely work, and I do it sometimes, but it's a little bit risky, because if for example, I'm going in on this Odin bot, and I'm just like, I go invisible, and I get in on him. As soon as that invisibility is gone, I don't have any way to get out now, because my jump is on cooldown. I can't just like teleport out and go invisible. So I do like to, in general, try and save this for getting out, and try and use Blink to engage if I can. Let's go grab Blink. So yeah, in general, I prefer to do stuff like this, blink in like that, because then if I'm like low and I have to get out, I can just do that, or like do this and stay in the invisibility and stuff. So it's a little risky to go in with the invisibility, but you can do it. And if you're going to do it, I would recommend activating Dragon Call first before you do it. It's kind of similar to Loki in a way, because this lasts 10 seconds, so you've got plenty of time here to just do this and this. And then you engage, because it makes a really loud sound. So if you're going to do it this way, for example, I'm going to go in on this Odin, and then I press Dragon Call right next to him. He knows I'm there. And you can, like, very quickly, like, get the damage out and surprise them and stuff, but it makes such a loud sound. It's intentional that it's that way, because he's a stealth character, and that's like part of his design, that you can't just like, you can hear him if you can't see him, kind of thing. So generally, you want to like activate the Dragon Call first, and then go invisible, and like get in on someone, and then start doing your stuff. Because if you activate Dragon Call right next to them, they're immediately going to know, and they're going to immediately press jump and try and avoid all your damage. So the ultimate. Very good for the execute, and that's almost always the way you will use it, but there are other ways to use the ultimate. Firstly, it's actually really good for peel, so like if you really think you're gonna die, like you're definitely gonna die, you can use your ultimate to just like knock them away and then like run, and you can put a decent bit of distance between you and them, especially if you also have this. You can like ult them up into the air, and then you use that for the stealth, and they're probably not going to find you at that point unless like an enemy teammate finds you or something like that. And so it can be used that way. It feels really bad to use it that way, but if you were going to die otherwise, it's probably still worth doing. You can just kind of pop them up in the air and then just like run like this. Can also be good for stopping enemies running away from you. So like if you don't think you're really going to get in range to get the execute, and you're a little bit in danger, and you're not going to have time to like burn them down to be at full getting the execute range, and you have teammates around, you can just pop this. It'll stop them running away, and then you can kind of like set up with your other stuff, and your teammates will have damage ready on the way down. Again, that's probably going to be like 5% of the time you use this ability. You're almost always going to be trying to get the execute, because that's when the ability is at its most powerful. Obviously, you execute them, you get 30% health heal, you get a re-engage with damage. That is obviously the best way to use the ability, but there are other ways, as I mentioned. And the final way is for the full combo. This isn't really the way to go, in my opinion, but it's a fun thing you can do, and it sometimes can work. And so you basically do this. You activate Dragon Call, go in with the ultimate, immediately put this down, and then do something like that. That was pretty slow, and you can do it a lot faster, where basically all of those damages just like hit on the ways down, and you can actually get like a lot of burst damage that way. We'll get into builds more in a second, but you generally want to be building Kuang just like full power, and so scalings are actually quite large. So you can just do stuff like this, and just do that, and you can get like really big damage that way, because you're basically getting your entire kit off on them for free, because if they're not beezing your ultimate, you can very easily just dump everything into them, and his whole kit has like something ridiculous like 300% power scaling. That's if you're using all of these, so it'd be a little bit less, probably like 200% power scaling if you were just doing it with like kind of this style. Like, that's going to be a lot less damage, but it can be really heavy burst, and it can actually, like, kill people from, like, 60-70% if you don't think you can, like, be ready for the execute. Again, it's not the optimal way to use this ability. Don't go around trying to do this all the time. You want to be executing most of the time, but you can do stuff like that, and you can get big burst damage, and like, they can't really avoid it, because it all hits as they're landing if you get really good at it. Even I'm not, like, perfect at it, and you gotta kind of time everything right. But yeah, that can be another way to use Kuang's ultimate if you don't think you're going to be able to get the execute. Alright, so with abilities and tips and tricks covered, let's move into Ao Kuang's build paths. So, I'm not really going to talk about solo lane for him. I think it's a very fringe viable thing, but you can play him in solo, it's worth noting. It's not great, but you can. And you might want to build him a little bit more bruiser with like potentially a Berserker Shield or something like that in solo, but we're just going to talk about his jungle and his full damage playstyle because that's the best way to play him in my opinion. And so, in terms of your starter item, it's always going to want to be Protector of the Jungle. This thing gives 35% attack speed, which in combination with Ao Kuang's base attack speed gets you up to like, we can see actually, gets you up to 1.74, which is more than enough. Like, considering Ao Kuang has a 1.5.51 hit chain, those middle two hits come out really fast, and so you can easily get your Dragon Call active and stuff like that. So this is more than enough attack speed. I wouldn't recommend going any kind of rings or attack speed on Ao Kuang. It's really not the optimal way to build him, in my opinion. And Protector of the Jungle, you know, along with that 35% attack speed that's more than enough for you, you also get 70 magical power, 30 physical procs, and the 15% power and 7% prop boost while in the jungle. This item is just really good. A lot of team fights happen in the jungle, and if you're playing him in a side mode, maybe you want to change it. You know, obviously you probably don't want this in arena, for example, but in terms of just conquest, which is mainly what I'm talking about here, Protector of the Jungle is absolutely the way to go for you. In terms of first item, I like Spear of Desolation a lot. This item's really good. It comes with 15 pen, which is nice, 70 power is decent, 10% cooldown, and then that passive that reduces all of your cooldowns by 2 seconds can be really good as well. Reduces your ult cooldown by 6 as well, which allows you to get more executes off, but like when you've got the Dragon King sword as well, like that's already reducing all of your active cooldowns, you can have like cooldowns up way often. Obviously this is unrealistic example because I have cooldown reduction on, but it kind of like works really well in tandem with the Dragon King sword because you can get 2 seconds off from this, and then if you get a kill, you get 2 seconds off again. Your 3's back off cooldown immediately because it's a base 6-second cooldown and goes down with CDR obviously. So Spear of Desolation I think is really good on him as your early flat pen rush. Allows you to get your power curve going a little bit earlier because Ao Kuang is a little bit weaker in the early game than your average jungler, and so having 15 flat pen online and having that cooldown reduction allows you to take more early game fights than you would if you were going like a more greedy rush like Doom Orb or something like that. And so Spear of Desolation is a really good first item in my opinion. Next item, it can kind of vary. I'll just give you my like go-to example build here, and then I'll talk about like other options that you can kind of switch in. So I like to go Rod of Tahuti second. It gives you big magical power, percent pen, bonus damage against targets below 60% health is really nice because you're trying to get enemies down to 30% for your ult. So when you're going in like this, once you get them low, you're going to be doing more and more damage, and then you can go in for the ult for the execute. So Rod of Tahuti has really nice synergy with Ao Kuang for that reason. You know, once they drop below 60, you can really easily burst them down to 30 and then get that execute off, which is super nice. And just in general, it's one of the highest power items in the game. 10% pen is really nice for later in the build as well. In terms of the glyph for Rod of Tahuti, you want to be going Perfected. This has even more synergy with like the Spear of Desolation and Dragon King sword stuff, because when you use your second ability, you're going to reduce all of your active cooldowns by 1.5 seconds and also gain some movement speed, which is really nice for Ao Kuang as well. So yeah, you gain movement speed, you can chase people down, and you're going to reduce all your cooldowns. And because Ao Kuang goes in with this, that counts as 2 abilities hitting. You saw I took two stacks of Dragon King sword there. And yeah, your 3 is hitting, but your 2 is also hitting. And so you immediately proc Rod of Tahuti's effects because 2 abilities are hitting there just from doing this. Like, that's immediately going to proc the effect. It's going to reduce all of your active cooldowns by 1.5 seconds, give you 10% movement speed, which is just really nice. Allows you to chase people down more effectively. The other variant of Rod, you pretty much only want this on gods that can immediately confirm that Meteor with a CC on, like, they're engaged. So, like, Scylla, for example, if Scylla hits Scylla 1, you're immediately going to get that Meteor guarantee. Whereas on Ao Kuang, you don't have any, like, CC to kind of guarantee that. You're much better with Perfected Rod to just reduce your cooldowns as soon as you do this. That's a lot better. It's not an essential glyph, though, and I would finish this after your entire build. I wouldn't immediately glyph this. It's not worth the 600 gold, in my opinion, but it is nice to have once you've finished off your full build. It's just, like, a nice little extra passive there. In terms of the rest of the build, I like to go immediately into Spear of the Magus. It has a little bit of lifesteal, has 10% pen, has power, and then that mark is really nice because you're gaining 5% increased damage as soon as this 3 hits. So that second hit of the dragon gets bonus from the mark, and then all of these follow-up dragon hits are all getting 5% bonus damage. So this is really nice. Spear of the Magus is especially good on gods that engage with like a smaller hit and then follow up with big damage, and instead of like immediately doing their big damage. So like, you don't really want Spear of the Magus on Scylla because she kind of engages with her big burst damage. But with Ao Kuang, as soon as that 3 hits, all of these follow-up dragons are doing 5% bonus damage. And so that in combination with like Rod of Tahuti as well, being able to do a bunch of increased damage to low health targets, you can get people down to execute range super easily with this kind of a build, and I like that a lot. Next, I like to go into Polynomicon. Used to be that Polynomicon will proc on Ao Kuang's 3, as I mentioned, because it counted fully as a basic attack for all purposes. It doesn't anymore, unfortunately. This is not going to proc Polynomicon, which is kind of sad. But I think Poly is still really good, because you just go in like this, and then this next basic attack gets that Poly proc, and does a whole bunch of bonus damage. Again, Ao Kuang kind of really just plays around, I want to get as much damage out as fast as possible after I go in with this, and then I'm going to go in for the execute. And that's kind of like his whole game plan, basically, and Polynomicon really helps you out with that, because you just get that little bit of extra bonus damage as soon as you hit that basic, and you can just burst people down, like, really effectively. And finally, because I already have Spear of the Magus and Polynomicon giving me 16% lifesteal between them, I like to go into a Typhon's Fang as my final item. This thing has 20% pen, which finishes off your 40% magical pen. You have 10% on Ratatouille, 10% on Spear of the Magus, and 20% on Typhon. So you're at that 40% cap with this build, which I think is really nice. You know, Ao Kuang's not typically targeting tanks per se, but he kind of can target tanks. One, because he has such high damage. Your damage is just so insane that you actually can burst tanks down. Not 100 to 0 them or anything like that, but you can burst tanks down pretty effectively with Ao Kuang's insane damage. And of course, he has an execute. So 30% of their maximum health is going to be way more effective on a tank overall. Also, tanks generally don't build beads anywhere near as often as backliners do. So you can very easily just get in on a tank when you have 40% pen and all this insane damage from like Polynomicon, Spear of the Magus boosting everything, 180% power scaling on you too. You can actually burst down tanks more effectively than you would think and just go in for an execute. And so having that 40% pen is really nice for that. And of course, you have 10% lifesteal on Typhon's Fang. You have 16% from these, so you have 26% magical lifesteal. And you also gain 15% increased healing from that when you have Typhon's Fang. And you gain magical power equal to twice that amount of magical lifesteal, so you're going to be getting... an extra 52 power from this. So Typhon's Fang in this build is giving you 117 power, which is a lot. You know, it's more than Ratatouille's giving you. With all the power nerfs to mage items, 112 or however much I said power is like way more than most items will be giving you. And so I think Typhon's Fang in this kind of a build, because Ao Kuang already really likes Spear of the Magus and Polynomicon, I think it's worth going Typhons in that last slot to finish off your percent pen. Especially because the other percent pen options for mages aren't really that good for Ao Kuang. Demonic Grip is kind of okay, but it's not as great as you would think because it takes 3 basic attacks to get stacked up. And as I mentioned, this 3 doesn't count as a basic attack, so no demonic stacks. 1 demonic stack, 2, 3. I'm now at my max demonic stacks getting 30% pen. And a lot of your damage is kind of done by that point. You know, you've done your 3, you've done like 2 of the dragons, you've done Polynomicon, and so like a lot of your damage is kind of like gone by that point, and so I don't think demonic grip is that good on him. Also, you don't really need the attack speed, as I mentioned. 1.74 with just a starter and base attack speed is more than enough for you to get your dragons off with Ao Kuang's fast 2 hits in the middle of his chain there. It's more than enough. Charon's Coin, I guess, is kind of okay for him, and that'll probably be my second option, but I do like Typhons a lot. And then Obsidian Shard really isn't too great for him either, because it's your first ability cast, gains 20% magical pen, which isn't really what you want. You know, you're just going to get this, has like a bit of extra pen when you engage. Not really that useful. And so I feel like Typhons is his best 20% pen option, and it works really well when you also have Polynomicon and Spear. As I mentioned, this thing has like over 110 power, as well as like a bunch of lifesteal, increased healing from magical lifesteal. And while I don't think Ao Kuang needs lifesteal, he does really well with it, because if you didn't know, the way magical lifesteal works in this game, AoE hits get 33% of the value that you would initially get. So normally, if like this would deal 100 damage and I had 20% lifesteal, it would normally heal me for 20, but instead it'll heal me for 1/3 of that, so like 8 point something. And so AoE abilities with magical lifesteal are way worse, and it's why you typically don't see magical lifesteal built on many gods. You know, Bancroft's Talon's a pretty bad item, and that's one of the reasons it's kind of bad, is because you don't get that full value. You only get 1/3 value, and so you have to be hitting 3 targets to get the same amount of value that you would normally get if it were a single target ability or basic attack. And that's kind of fine on minion waves, but when you're in team fights, hitting 3 people with your abilities just to get the normal value that you would get is like kind of hard to do. But with Ao Kuang, one, his basic attacks obviously are single target, and so you get full lifesteal value from those. But also, these dragons are completely single target, and so you're going to get full lifesteal value. So watch how my health goes up here. That's a lot of lifesteal, like, especially since the 10.3 patch, like, that's a lot of lifesteal, and so you can kind of keep yourself topped up quite easily with this kind of a build, and I do just like that. I wouldn't say lifesteal's essential on Ao Kuang, but with this kind of build, the lifesteal is kind of ancillary. Like, Typhons is just giving you a lot of power, 20% pen, Poly's giving you that powerful passive, Spear of the Magus is giving you that powerful passive and 10% pen. And so all of these lifesteal items that I'm building here, they all have like other reasons why I'm building them. And the lifesteal is just a nice little extra thing. I'm not really building these 3 items for the lifesteal. I'm building them for the other things that they give, but when I also have, you know, what, 26% magical lifesteal. It's also boosted by Typhon's healing, and this is single target. It actually results in now Kuang being able to like lifesteal quite a lot and just keep himself a little bit topped up while he's in those dives, so he's got a little bit more potential, a little bit more time to kind of get someone low and go in for the execute. And so yeah, that would be like my go-to default build for Kuang. This is what I'd be building every game if I'm not really factoring in any kind of like counter options. In terms of counter options though, I really like Magi's Cloak. Magi's Cloak is really good if you're looking to not get bursted down by CC. Kuang, his ult gives him CC immunity technically, but it's not really like the best use for it, and so having this little bit of CC immunity, he's very vulnerable when he goes in for the dive, and so like you can just either like stop someone like stunning you off of a backliner so you can go in for the full execute, or you can just stop yourself getting like picked off by CC and stuff like that. So Magi's Cloak, if you need it, I think is really good. I'll probably sacrifice maybe like the Spear of the Magus or something for this, or the Rod of Tahuti. Ethereal Staff is just really strong right now. It's not super good on Kuang in my opinion, but it is nice that you can immediately get 2 procs when you do your 3 because your 2 also activates. Ethereal Staff is just really good at the moment, and so if you do want to slot this into your build, I think that's completely fine because it's just a really good item. You know, 8% max health from the target is just like super strong. In a similar vein, I think Soul Reaver has potential. You immediately proc it twice when you do your 2 into 3 on people, and so you can get like 2 Soul Reaver procs immediately, and that can help with bursting people down. But I do prefer this kind of build in terms of over like the Soul Reaver build, but is there as an option. Divine Ruin is okay. I personally prefer Spear of Deso, and you would probably rather like your mid had Divine Ruin because Kuang's not really a poke character. He's not going to be sitting there throwing poke at the backline, stopping them healing with Divine Ruin's passive. You're really kind of like an all-in character, and Divine Ruin isn't as good in that kind of an application. You don't really have any poke for it. But if no one else can get it on your team and you really need it, you can replace Spear of Desolation with Divine Ruin. You don't really lose much damage for this. You just lose the cooldown reduction, which is not ideal, but you do get the Divine Ruin passive, which is really nice. And again, I'll just quickly mention, I don't think you need any of the rings on Kuang. You don't need Hasten Ring, you don't need Cyclopean Ring. He's not really an attack speed character, to be honest. He's just got his 2, but like, as I mentioned, when you have Eye of the Jungle and you also have your base attack speed, you go to 1.74, that's more than enough with his attack chain. I don't think you really need any of the rings. Charon's Coin, as I mentioned, if you're going less lifesteal focus, you can build Charon's Coin as your 20% pen option, but I think this is just way better with these 3 items. They provide a lot of like, these 3 items alone provide like so much for you, alongside the magical lifesteal as well, so I think that's probably the best way to go. And yeah, I think that's everything in terms of builds. Kuang has a pretty condensed build. He's not like King Arthur in my previous guide where like you have to be switching things out constantly and there's like different options and stuff like that. Most of his build really is core, and I would just recommend going this build that I have in every single game, swapping in a Magi's Blessing if you think you need it. That's mainly what I go with. You can change other things out, as I mentioned, like Divine Ruin or maybe even Charon's Coin or something like that, but I think this build is just like the best way that you can go. It really helps with all of these extra passives to burst people down into execute range and go in for the kill. Quickly, in terms of relics, I already have them. You want Beads Blink every single game on Kuang. You need Blink to be able to engage effectively, so you can just like blink in rather than having to use this. I think Blink is much better. You can go either Blink. A lot of people are shitting on Purple Blink at the moment, but I do really like it because you can kind of blink in and then you can stick to them with your 2 and stuff like that. So I do kind of like Purple Blink on Kuang. It's my go-to, but Scorching Blink is also still really good. You can just blink in, you get a bunch of extra damage to help people like get bursted down into execute range. And then beads, it's obvious, you know, the same reason you would call Magi's Blessing or whatever, you're building beads. Like, it's kind of just a given at this point. If you played any Smite, you know you kind of build beads on these type of characters, just for that immunity. Can help you, like, secure kills. So, like, if you're about to get CC'd off, you just press beads, you immune the CC, you kind of go and continue for the execute. And it's also very good for, like, defensive purposes. Obviously, you know, if you're just getting, like, bursted down by CC, you're just like, no, I'm not going to do that. It's beads. You all know beads is really good. You build beads Blink on Kuang every single game. That's what you have to do. But yeah, I think that's all I've got for Kuang. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Do let me know who you want to see next in this in-depth guide series. I'm enjoying making these. They're quite chill to just make, just like hanging out in jungle practice, explaining what I know about certain gods and stuff like that. I've been spamming Kuang recently in ranked. Played against Pretty Prime on my stream and managed to win that game, which was nice. So yeah, we've been doing a lot of work on Kuang in ranked recently. Go follow my Twitch if you want to watch me play and stuff like that. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and I will catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.